In the morning, in the evening, ain't we got fun? You know, when you take a Carnival cruise, all your shipboard fun is included in the price. All your nighttime entertainment's included. All your food's included, too. Plus, fantastic tropical ports of call. And you know what all this costs? A lot less than you think. You know, every day, more and more people are taking cruise vacations. Good morning. Good morning. Why? Because a cruise is such a terrific vacation value. Hi. Especially a fun ship cruise. Another reason? Practically everything's included in the price. Thank you. So you know how much you're going to spend before you get here, and you take your hotel room with you. You don't have to pack and unpack. You'll visit all kinds of fun places, and you'll meet all kinds of fun people.
Alright, that's enough from Kathie Lee. Hey everybody. So this will definitely be a different kind of video than I normally make. It's going to be more of a photo slideshow, which is totally different from my other videos. I took all these photos before I decided to start my channel, and I didn't really give any thought to taking video. This will be a review of my trip on board the Carnival Conquest that I took in November 2024. Also, if you want previews of where I'm at or what I'm doing, be sure to follow me on Instagram. So I decided to take a trip to celebrate 1 year of working at my new job and having enough vacation time built up to finally do so. I decided to take a cruise to the Bahamas mostly because I had never been on a cruise before. Honestly, I had a bunch of reservations ongoing, but after everything was said and done, I had a great time, and it changed my opinion about taking a cruise. My trip started off at Milwaukee Mitchell International Airport. Now I normally use the Chicago airports, but I got a great deal flying Delta down to Miami. And if you know Delta, that means I have to connect at one of their hubs. Today, we're connecting in Atlanta, which was my first time flying through Atlanta. But Mitchell Airport is a quirky airport. We have a recombobulation area after you get past security, and if you forgot to buy cheese while in Wisconsin, the airport shops have you covered. While on the plane, I actually decided on watching Bluey on the leg from Milwaukee to Atlanta. I know. I don't have kids, but I do watch Bluey from time to time. It's a very wholesome show, and there are some funny moments. And of course, you get a lime lesson or two. Also, I settled on their Starbucks coffee while in the air. It honestly was not a great cup of coffee. United's Illy coffee has a much better flavor compared to Delta's Starbucks offering in my opinion. After arriving in Atlanta, I decided to walk around a bit and have a really good cheeseburger until I had to head to the gate to the connecting flight to Miami. It was raining in Atlanta at the time, and I was also worried that I was not going to make it out. Luckily, we were able to make it down to Miami. Also, since I'm a glutton for punishment, I decided on another cup of horrible Starbucks coffee to get me by. Anyways, after arriving in Miami, I collect my bags and wait on the shuttle to the hotel. As soon as I got outside and saw the shuttle, it drove past me and I had to wait another 30 minutes for the next one. Not the best start to the trip. Now on this trip, I stayed at the Hampton Inn Miami Airport East. I actually had a great stay. My bed was comfortable and the room was pretty clean. I got into the hotel a little after 8 p.m. and I was hungry, so I ordered Chinese food on Uber Eats and then ordered a gallon of distilled water for my CPAP machine and a 12-pack of Diet Pepsi for the cruise. The next morning I went down to the lobby for their excellent breakfast buffet. I felt refreshed and ready to head off to Port Miami to board the ship. Now one amenity that the Hampton Inn offers is a shuttle to Port Miami for $12 per person. Now if you look on their website, the cruise shuttle isn't listed as a hotel amenity. I found out about the shuttle while looking through reviews on TripAdvisor, so if you need a shuttle to Port Miami, stay at the Hampton Inn Miami Airport East. The shuttle option is actually a bargain compared to taking an Uber or a Lyft from the hotel. While on the shuttle, most of the other passengers were boarding the Carnival Sunrise, which, if you know, you know. I was the only person on board the shuttle that would be sailing on board the Conquest. And of course, I was the last person off the shuttle. Before boarding the Conquest, I did watch a few videos ahead of time to see what the ship was like and what was on board. And I will say, the videos and pictures do not do her justice. The ship is more impressive in person than what you can see in a video or a photo. Even though the Conquest is an older ship, she still holds up to this day. Now before we get into details about the ship or anything like that, I do have to talk about using your cell phone while at sea. I have AT&T, so be sure to double check with your phone company as to what coverages you have while at sea. At the time, AT&T had a separate plan for cruise ships, and the Conquest was not a covered ship. What that meant was that if I used the ship's facilities for cellular devices, I was charged per megabyte for data, per text message received and sent, and per minute per call. I actually had to look at my bill from when I was on the ship, and it was $73 higher than normal. For using 17 megabytes of data, that's megabytes, I had to pay $34.43. The other charges were from AT&T's International Day Pass feature. What International Day Pass is, it's an optional service that you can opt into where when you're in a foreign country, you can pay $12 a day to use your phone and your phone's normal plan like you do when you're at home. I used International Day Pass while in Nassau, while we were docked at Half Moon Cay, and while we had a day at sea and I somehow caught a signal from the Bahamas. AT&T has changed their plans to where International Day Pass and their Cruise Pass are integrated into the same option. You still pay $12 a day to use your phone overseas, but to use your phone on a supported cruise ship is now $20 a day, and the Conquest is now a covered ship. Once again, be sure to check with your phone company ahead of time to see what coverages are available to you while at sea and in port. Continuing on, I first went to my assigned muster station, which is a requirement of all guests on board before being able to explore the ship. Next, I went to Guy's Burger Joint and got me a quick lunch before heading down to the Toulouse-Lautrec main show lounge for a welcome on board presentation, which covered some basics for first-time cruisers like myself. Finally, there was an announcement that our staterooms were ready, so I headed down to my assigned stateroom, which was 2345. Let's take a look around the room. I had an interior stateroom, which was more than enough for just myself. The room was very clean and the two twin beds were pushed together so that I had a larger bed. When I entered my stateroom, I started hearing a voice and I didn't know who was in my room, but it turns out that the TV was left on and it was Shaq talking about all the fun you'll have on board a Carnival cruise. One complaint I had about my stateroom was that there was only one outlet for all of your devices. If you need multiple outlets, bring an extension cord and power tap like what you see in this picture and connect all your devices. Surge protectors are not allowed on board. If you bring one on, it will be confiscated during bag checks. After unpacking all my suitcases, I got to exploring the Conquest a little more, found the casino, and while at port, you are unable to gamble. So I took a picture of the atrium and some pictures of Miami until we departed for Nassau. Now, I'm not a fan of crowds at all, so I stayed in my room and watched the camera feeds of us departing Miami and took a quick nap until it was dinner time. Now, before settling down for my nap, I decided to look through the Carnival Hub app and see what was going to happen later on board. I marked that I wanted to go to a singles event. Yes, I'm single, and although I normally find these things kind of tacky, I decided to try it out, which I'm glad I did, because I met a few people at the singles event and found myself doing things with this great group of people while on board. Also, I looked over the dinner menu and looked over what else there was to do. And if you want, pause the video and read what was available. Now, while at dinners, I was assigned to table 400, which was the largest table in the main dining room, and was where Carnival put all the single cruisers together. Over the course of the cruise, we all sat at our same seats, and it kind of felt like a family atmosphere. We had the same people show up, and we all talked about our days like we were a big family. We all got close, and it felt great to know that you would see the same people night after night at dinner. Now, while at dinner our first night, the waitstaff did dance around the dining room to welcome us on board. For the first night's dinner, there was a bread course, then a salad course, and for my main course, I chose the braised short ribs. And to finish everything off, I had a cup of coffee with dinner. Our waiter at dinner was the same waiter we had every night, and he knew what we wanted to drink when we sat down, and he would joke around with us and made us feel welcome. After coming back to my stateroom from dinner, I was greeted with one of Carnival's famous towel animals. Tonight, I had an elephant on my bed. And after having dinner and getting set up in my room and whatnot, I decided to take a quick shower before heading out to the singles mixer. Day 2. We arrive in Nassau, Bahamas, which is the capital of the Bahamas. After a quick breakfast, I headed out to see the city and do a little Christmas shopping. It was a warm 81 degrees Fahrenheit compared to the 40-degree temperatures we had in Milwaukee at the time. I did not take many pictures of the shopping I did, but there was a lot to see while in Nassau. There was a museum of junk canoe right inside the cruise port where you could learn about the history of the junk canoe parades and even participate in a mini parade inside the cruise port. There was rum for sale everywhere you looked, and if you wanted an adult beverage, there were tons of places for those too. It was nice to get off the ship for a few hours and rest my sea legs, but eventually you have to get back on board the ship. For dinner, I had the sirloin steak and Carnival's melting chocolate cake. The steak, while having a good bit of fat on it, was prepared excellently and tasted amazing. And that melting chocolate cake, I need to see if I can get a recipe for it. It was one of the best desserts I had ever eaten. Now to finish off the evening, I finished my Christmas shopping on board the ship and decided to head over to the Punchliner Comedy Club to see Just June and have a margarita. Just June was an amazing act, and at some point you'll have to look up some of her sets here on YouTube. She will have you laughing in no time. Day 3, I stayed on board. The ship was shuttling passengers off the ship and over to Half Moon Cay, which is a private island that Carnival owns. There's no docks on land, so Carnival operates water shuttles between the ships and land. I honestly didn't feel like having a beach day and eating hot dogs on the beach, so I decided to relax and do a few loads of laundry, but not before having a breakfast burrito at the Blue Iguana Cantina. Once again, another amazing meal. For lunch, I decided to have a Cuban sandwich from the Carnival Deli since the buffet was closed and in the middle of changing things over. Paired with the Cuban was an order of fries and a cup of lemonade, and wow, everything was still good. Moving on to dinner, I had the French onion soup and the chicken parmesan. I did not feel like having dessert that night, but all was great with the meal. After dinner, I decided to hit the casino. No luck there, but they were having a sale on scratch-off tickets, and guess what? All were losers. I met up with my friends from the singles mixer and cut my losses with the Cucumber Sunrise from the Alchemy Bar. The Cucumber Sunrise is an amazing drink and an easy drink you can make at home yourself. If you want the recipe, Carnival has it on their website. Day 4 was our day at sea. I used the day to explore the ship a little more and pack my bags and say goodbye to everybody I met while at sea. The day started off with a debarkation presentation which explained the process for getting off the ship and the handling of luggage. If this is your first cruise, definitely go to the debarkation presentation. If you missed the presentation, you can watch it on the TV in your room. For dinner, I had the minestrone soup and the chicken breast. The chicken was actually the worst meal I had out of all of them while on board, but for dessert, I chose the baked Alaska. And as it was the final night for all of us on board, the waitstaff did a couple more dances for us to say goodbye. As for the final night of the cruise, I could not sleep at all that night. I had a horrible case of heartburn which kept me up, and at that point, I was also exhausted and wanted to go home. I was supposed to spend an extra day in Miami and had plans and reservations for a rental car and hotel. I canceled those plans and decided to look into flights back to Milwaukee. I first looked at Delta, and Delta did not have any seats available, even on standby. So I looked at booking flights home with American and United, and their fares were ridiculously high for a one-way fare. Finally, I looked at Southwest, and Southwest was the winner at a $350 one-way fare back to Milwaukee with a 5-hour layover in Baltimore. For my debarkation, I was one of the last people off the ship, and after arriving on land, you still have your sea legs, so you're still wobbling around and looking like you're drunk when you're not. But after getting my bags and going through immigration at Port Miami, I head outside to book a Lyft to Miami International Airport. I was surprised when arriving at the airport. I thought I would have to go through extra security since I bought my tickets on Southwest with less than 12 hours notice. Nope. No extra security screening, and I still had my TSA pre-check and used that to get through security. Miami International Airport is another great airport to do plane spotting. I actually saw a plane from Bolivia and an Eastern Air 737, but at this point I was barely awake and wanted to just get to Baltimore. Wait, I actually said I wanted to go to Baltimore? Ugh. At this point, I was desperate to get home. This was my first time flying Southwest in 2 years, and I was surprised to see that they got rid of their snack mixes. Do you miss the old Southwest snack mix? I do, but the Maui Monk pretzels are actually a great alternative. If you like the pretzels, you can buy them at Target. Now I don't normally sleep during day flights, but during the flight from Miami to Baltimore, I slept. And before you knew it, we were about ready to land at BWI. While in Baltimore, I had a 5-hour layover, so I used that time to walk around the airport. A lot. I almost had my land legs back, but it still felt like I was at sea. The walking around did help with reacclimating myself back to being on land. Before dinner, I stopped at Rita's Italian Ice and got me an Italian ice. And for dinner, I stopped off at the Silver Diner and had one of the best bowls of chicken noodle soup I've ever had. And I didn't feel like having all dinner items, so I had an omelet before heading over to the gate to head to my flight home to Milwaukee. While in the air, I fell asleep again. And once again, before we knew it, we were back in Milwaukee with Gruber Law welcoming you back home. But that'll do it for my first ever cruise. For my ratings, I'm going to give my cruise experience a 4 out of 5. While not perfect, I did get to relax and I had a lot of fun while on board. And for my experience at the Hampton Inn Miami Airport East, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 as well. What do you think? Do you like going on cruises? Do you know anything about the Carnival Sunrise? Leave a comment, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back with more. See you next time.
So on your next vacation, take a 3, 4, or 7-day cruise on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.